Do terrorists have a religion? What do you think? Welcome, Swagatham. We have been used to saying somewhat mechanically, unthinkingly, habitually that terrorists have no religion. In the wake of the most horrific, hideous, inhuman event in Pahalgam, no doubt in my mind, at least sponsored by the chief of Pakistani army, General Asim Munir, I am compelled to revisit this stereotype. I too have in the past said on many occasions that terrorists have no religion. I really find it very hard to subscribe to the same notion as of now. And the only purpose of this video is to explain to you as simply and directly as I can why this change is knocking at the gate of my consciousness. And I do so in order to invite the responses of my viewers so that we can have an open dialogue on this very important issue, which actually touches upon various issues pertaining to religion and human sanity. Now, let's consider a situation completely different from all of this, a situation far distanced from us in time and space: the Crusades. Did the Crusaders have religion? I don't think anyone would dispute that they were religious or that they did what they did. Thousands laid down their lives. Thousands of lives were sacrificed in a foolish and futile manner under the auspices of the Crusades only because they were religious. So, the bloodshed broadly described as the many crusades had religion. Crusaders had religion. Then how come that terrorists don't have religion? The essence of the Crusades is the use of physical force, maximum physical force, unconscionable, brutal physical force, with scant respect to the sanctity of life and the inviolable protection that every life is entitled to in the interest of religion, inspired by religion and demanded by religion. That's the essence of the Crusades. As a Christian, I find it very difficult to believe that the Crusades were justified or were necessary because of the fundamental tenets of Christianity or the teachings of Jesus Christ. In fact, Jesus would have said, for God's sake, don't even think of it. Because he was the one who said, when his own life was under threat, put down the sword, he who takes the sword shall perish by it. So if you were to really ask the question, did Jesus have religion? I would say no, Jesus did not have religion. But did the Crusaders have religion? Yes, they had a religion, and the religion is called Christianity. Is Christianity a faithful, shall we say, incarnation of the teachings of Jesus Christ, his spiritual vision and mission? Good God, no, not at all. So there is a serious problem here, and there is no point in burying our heads under the sand like ostriches. And that it's time that that problem is confronted. Today, I am inclined to believe that terrorists have religion. Now, this is not to say that the practitioners or the adherents to a particular religion are terrorists, are all terrorists. Now, that's a very unfortunate conclusion, and I want to distance myself maximally from that utterly repugnant, absolutely indefensible assumption. Unfortunately, that's a kind of bias or prejudice that is spreading fast in the world. And the only antidote to that bias is an honest re-examination of the stereotype that terrorists have no religion. In fact, my conviction is that terrorists are those who misuse religion. Whether you use religion or misuse religion, you have a religion because you cannot misuse what you don't have. When the terrorists in Pahalgam lined up their victims, segregated them on the basis of religion, and the religious identity proved on the basis of their ability to recite the kalma. Are you to believe, or do you want me to believe, that religion was not involved, or that these subhuman agents of brutality did what they did because they did not have religion? Is that what you want me to believe? I'm sorry, I can't believe it anymore. There was a time I believed so. There was a time when I loudly proclaimed, proudly proclaimed with great conviction that terrorists have no religion, terrorism have no religion. I'm sorry, I don't believe in it anymore. Nor do I believe that terrorists are faithful representatives of any religion. But I do believe very firmly that terrorists are terrorists because of a particular religion which they may have fatally misunderstood, or which may have been diabolically misused and abused in misleading a certain set of people in order to instigate them to do the dreadful deed, the diabolic, satanic deed, or deeds the like of which we find enacted uh, over a period of time, culminating in this most horrendous episode in Pahalgam. So, I, for one, find it very difficult to believe that terrorists have no religion. Religion has no terrorists. Religion has no terrorists. That proposition is 100% valid, and I fully endorse it. True religion has no terrorists. Not only that, terrorism is utterly impossible if true religion is practiced. If the spiritual tenets of any religious tradition are adhered to in spirit and in truth, then terrorism is impossible. Violence is impossible. Bloodshed is impossible. So, religion has no terrorists, but terrorists have religion. That's a paradox that we need to come to terms with. Therefore, my humble submission is, when General Asim Munir, the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan, said in his own eloquent fashion that Hindus and Muslims can never be one, that they constitute two irreconcilable faith blocks, and that the state of Pakistan is founded on the sacrifice of Muslim blood, which he didn't say Muslim blood, but that's quite obviously implied. Our forefathers have made many sacrifices. We have made sacrifices. And who are they? Even Pakistanis call him the Mullah General. He's the most fundamentalist Islamic general ever known in Pakistani history itself. I happen to know personally, not in great detail, but I personally met and interacted with President Ziaul Haq, the president of Pakistan. Because he was an old student of the college. He visited the college in 1983, and I was in charge of part of his visit. So I interacted with him, and I received him into the chapel. I presented him with a copy of the Bible. We had a tete-a-tete, and he was a fundamentalist. He was the one who actually pulled Pakistan in the direction of the Islamic state compromising its secular foundations. But even General Ziaul Haq is nothing compared to General Asim Munir. And I, for one, find it very difficult to believe that he masterminded what he did without any reference to the religion about which he is so zealous, so fanatical, and so murderously fanatical. So now, therefore, from my perspective, the fundamental need at the present time is not to teach Pakistan a lesson. A lesson must be taught. About that, I don't have the slightest uncertainty or hesitation. I've already dealt with that topic in a Malayalam video I posted on this very same YouTube channel, if you like. It's nothing that merits the exalted title channel. It's not a channel, but a place where a few people come together in order to think honestly, truthfully, bravely, without any hassles. So, the fact that Pakistan must pay for what it has done is indubitable, is not negotiable. But then, who in Pakistan did it? Who is the real culprit? That has to be understood. That has to be identified boldly and courageously, rather than scapegoating a few people here and there simply because their lives are dispensable, food for fodder, fodder for some people's miscalculations, which is very unfortunate. Unfortunately, that's how many of these episodes are handled, morphed, and shaped. So, far more than the imperative need to make Pakistan confront the consequences, the bitter consequences, the unaffordable consequences of this subhuman project of inflicting 1,000 cuts on India, to my mind, a more radical, a more necessary, a more imperative, indispensable undertaking is to raise the question as to what it is in religion, every religion, including the religion I practice, Christianity, what it is that in every religion which lends itself so readily, so effectively, and so dreadfully to the terrorist project, the terrorist inclination, and the temptation to use violence as the only means for solving problems. There is something in religion which subserves this diabolic project, which inclines people in that direction. And unless and until that reality is confronted, that we shall not solve this problem. And this problem is not just confined to India and Pakistan. This problem is all over the world. And therefore, we're dealing with a problem of universal significance. And therefore, no delay can be admitted. This is an imperative and urgent task. That there must be a global debate on what it is that within every religious tradition makes it possible for the religious political elite to misuse and abuse religion in order to legitimize and sanitize the most indefensible, most horrendous project of terrorism. Whether terrorists have religion or not, the inspiration to undertake terrorist adventures of predictable, nightmarish consequences, both for the terrorists and for their victims, innocent victims. All of this has something to do with what religion is or what religion has come to be. And unless and until that is confronted, and this kind of parroting this old stereotype that terrorists have no religion, terrorism has nothing to do with religion, is stupid. It's most unhelpful. It is this stereotype that has stood in the way of our facing this problem head on, coming to some sane understanding as to how this chronic problem can be solved, how this disease, this epidemic can be eradicated. I believe it can be eradicated. And I insist that it should be eradicated. Humanity cannot afford this kind of situation any more than it already has. The people of India and Pakistan, or the peoples of India and Pakistan, if you like, would have lived in peace but for religion. In fact, the Indian subcontinent would not have been sliced into two. And inaugurating a parallel history for both nations over a period of 80 years, soaked in blood, but for religion. And yet, every religion preaches peace. Every religion preaches the acceptance, mutual acceptance, and respect for each other. Every religion preaches uh, love, compassion, justice, forbearance, fellow feeling, the duty to live peaceably with your neighbors. And yet, history teaches us that no two neighboring countries can live in peace. There is something perverse about this reality, and that needs to be identified, confronted, and understood aright. And some remedy has to be devised for this malady. Today, the situation between India and Pakistan has reached such a state that India finds it impossible to continue the status quo. It is now so desperate that in our perceptions, there is no alternative left except going for the jugular of this problem, even if we don't understand the problem right. And therefore, my worry is that the solutions to the problem attempted may not really result in the permanent solution of the problem. It may yield a world of psychological satisfaction, a sense of some justice having been done, particularly to the victims and the surviving members of these devastated families. It is not some kind of psychological relief that we need to seek. We need to seek a solution to this problem. It has persisted for too long. It has festered for too long. And the time has come to put it to an end. And whatever we can do to put this to an end, so that normalcy can be restored, and the peoples on both sides of the dividing lines can be allowed to live in peace. Time is running out on us. And these are two nuclear states. The consequences are horrendous, too horrendous to contemplate. And I'm totally convinced about this, unless and until this perverse streak in religion is honestly recognized, identified, and confronted, and sufficient global awareness and understanding generated as to how to prevent the most diabolic, destructive, perverse possibilities in religious traditions from finding their free play in the domain of personal, communal, national, international relations. So that humanity is rid of this. Humanity is rid of this curse of having to be chronically wounded and bled on account of religion. This is not the purpose of religion. The purpose of religion is not to awaken the sleeping devil in us. The purpose of religion is not to degrade us to a level lower than that of the worst animals, the predators of the world. The purpose of religion is to ennoble human nature. It is to increase in us the capacity to live peaceably with each other. It is in particular to school us in the art of living with differences, and indeed the art of perceiving and intuiting a deeper reality even through these differences. We are one, not in spite of these differences, we are one because of these differences. That's the true spiritual insight. But this true insight is completely subverted, choked, buried 7 fathoms beneath the surface of the earth. And the most divisive, most perverse, most malevolent and malignant prospects are harped on, activated, and human nature degraded with this ulterior intention of using human beings as weapons in order to subserve certain reprehensible, regrettable, subhuman interests, the interests of the socio-economic political elite. Unfortunately, religion is raped and raped and raped repeatedly in all parts of the world by the dominant elite. to subserve their interests. That's where the problem lies. And unless and until that reality is recognized, confronted, and sufficient safeguards devised, there'll be no end to this problem. Look at the problems raging in any part of the world, you will find that this perverse abuse of religion plays an important role in this. I'm not saying that religion is the sole cause of all the problems in the world. I'm certainly saying that it's one of the major causes. Not religion per se, but a certain way of using, misusing, and abusing religion in order to legitimize the naked, bestial pursuit of otherwise indefensible projects that are meant to benefit only the elite, and therefore religious terrorism in the end is the most regrettable project of perpetuating human sacrifices, except that here human sacrifices are perpetrated not to honor gods, but to subserve the interests of the ruling elite. Clearly, General Asim Munir was abusing Islam in order to perpetuate himself in office. And I can only quote to him the words of Jesus as found in the 12th chapter of John's Gospel, verse 24, 25, 26, 25 and 26. He who seeks to save his life shall lose it, but he who loses his life for my sake, for the sake of humanity, for the sake of truth, for the sake of justice, shall find it. He who seeks to save his life shall lose it. General Asim Munir. This is what Jesus Christ has to tell you. He who seeks to his life shall lose it. He who loses his life for my sake, for the sake of humanity, shall find it. You will have to pay for it, and you will learn soon enough that you are on an adventure, the exact nature of which, alas, you yourself did not understand. So, I repeat, the most pressing agenda for humanity at the present time is revisiting religion from a perspective of detoxifying religion and guarding it against this horrible and chronic abuse of religion all over the world in order to legitimize and defend the indefensible, particularly the indefensible evolved and advocated by the dominant elite of every society, so that this most sacred of human instincts, the idea of the sacred, can be used as a fig leaf to cover the hideous ugliness of their vested interests. Satyameva Jayate, Nanardam. Jai Hind.